Well, good morning, private practice success community. How are you guys going? Let's just do that. I am quickly sharing this into one of my groups. And there's Mishka in the background saying, hi, hello. I am the resident husky, being very naughty as normal. For those watching this live stream for the first time, if you are on my page for the first time, my name is Gerda Mala. I'm a clinical psychologist and a private practice business coach and mentor to allied helping professionals. Hey Jenny, I see you have just hopped on, so welcome, welcome. Okay, what was that? It just felt like something flew over my head. I don't know what that was. Anyway, for some reason it won't let me share that. Is it you, Mishka? Being very naughty in the background. Hey Jenny, how are you? Who else is here with me? No, she's so beautiful. Yes, I actually got Mishka from Jenny that's here on the live stream with us. Hey Michelle, how are you going? Hope you're doing well. Let's just see. No, this is not going to work. My laptop aren't working with me. So I'm sitting here outside. I have just had my morning run. And I thought I'm going to do a quick live stream. Hey Monique, thanks for joining, because at 11 o'clock I'm doing my first consult for the day with one of my inner circle members, and at 12 I'm doing another consult with an inner circle member, and then my principal psychologists are coming over for our fortnightly 2-hour meeting, and then it's like 3 o'clock already, kids coming home. So I thought, no, I'm getting this in now, and if anybody's wondering, this is me in my active wear. Not my resort wear, as somebody recently commented on one of my live streams where they said, oh, easy for you to say, Gerda, basically something to that effect. You lounging there in your resort wear. And I first thought, where is that resort wear? And then I realized that's actually an insult. So no, this is actually my active wear. I've actually been for a run. I have the sweat to show it. Got no makeup on. I've got the pimples to show it. So yes, I'm wearing my sunnies because I can't see otherwise out here. Maybe that makes me look very fancy. But this is me post-run, no makeup, just letting it all bare, because that's how I roll. And I guess I am very fortunate that I am able to sit here in my backyard with my swimming pool that might look like a resort, but you know, if you live in Queensland, every second person has a swimming pool. Like my neighbors there have one, these have one, those have one, like 4 houses in a row have a swimming pool, and it's not even that big. I'll show you. Hey Tess, thanks for hopping on. There you go, that's my resort, that's my backyard. But I guess that's a lovely I'm saying that I have my own resort in my backyard. But you know what, I am very fortunate to be sitting in my resort wear, in my resort backyard at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning, not having to rush into my private practice. But you know what, I did that for a full 7 years. I mean, I've had my private practice for 10, but I slaved away in my private practice for the first 7 years until I about 5 years in, started to realize, but you know what, I can't do this for the next 20, 30 years. I'm going to completely burn out, and I just wasn't enjoying it. And unless you start to change your behavior, what you're doing it, you know, that's what your life is going to be like. And you know, if that's what you choose for yourself, that's perfectly fine, but that's not what I choose for myself. And hence I decided to start running my practice as a business, and that now affords me the luxury of talking to you here on a Monday morning at 10 a.m. All right, Monique says, I'm having a late start to no backyard pool here though. Well, Monique, put that on the to-do list. You can do that too. For actually our first house that we had here in Australia, which we've been here now, 14 years, for 7 years in that house, we didn't have a pool. Not at all. We had a pool back in South Africa, and we said, nah, we don't want a pool in this new country, too much hard work. But where we lived in South Africa had Melbourne weather, so we almost never used the pool. And then we came to Australia, and 7 years in, we actually had a pool put in to our backyard, and then we stayed in that house for 12 months with our pool. And then when we bought this one, we said, okay, our second house in Australia will now have its own pool. So because we people, we put in roots. So we've only had 3 houses in our whole life, 1 in South Africa, and this is our 2nd one here. But to come back to my point, you know, we all have a choice in terms of what our life is going to be like, and you know, running my practice as a business has given me the freedom to do what I want with my time. It's also allowed me to give back to the community. You know, people often criticize me for being against bulk billing and that type of thing, and you know, I go, that's perfectly fine. You choose what you need to do. I choose what I want to do. You know, I have done an immense amount of pro bono work myself as a clinician over the years. I have actually allowed my clinicians to do pro bono work where they would see their clients that's run out of funding, and the practice would pay the clinician to do that work. But you know what, when that stuff happens, we don't talk about it. This is the first time ever I actually mentioned that. It just happens. It will be a conversation between me and that clinician and my accounts person to say this is what's happening here and that's why you need to pay them, and between me and my client. And you know why we can do that? It's because we run our practice as a business. We're not a charity, and we cannot fulfill the government's obligation that keeps on taking money from mental health and giving it elsewhere and cutting everything and making everything so darn hard with red tape and paperwork. That's not my job. I'm not a politician, okay? And I'm not saying we shouldn't lobby for that stuff. We should, and that's why you need to belong to a professional body and support them in doing that stuff. But you can't expect a private small business with less than 20 employees to do that, to do the job that the government has to do. But we do what we can. We make our own little input, and we put in our own effort as much as we can. But when we do it, we don't sing it from the rooftops because we respect the client too much. We respect that person's privacy, their confidentiality. And I'm not going to put something on a live stream when we've just agreed something to a patient with a client, because even if we don't say their name and who they are, they know who they are, and they might follow us on Facebook. And I never want a client to be ashamed or embarrassed or anything like that. So I think it's very important to know that sometimes you don't have the full truth. Just like that person that commented about my resort where didn't really know the truth of me having gone for a run, sitting here with no makeup in my own backyard. You don't always know what's happening within a private practice, so don't make assumptions. But that is not really the purpose of this live stream. Let me just quickly check for any comments. Yeah. Hey Tess, hey Kim, hey everybody, hey Michelle. So glad to have you on here. So what I actually want to talk to you about this morning is about team. Last week I did a blog on my Facebook page around clinicians, and I can't tell you how many people messaged and emailed me, hey Cassidy, my lovely, how are you going? Is this not school time? What time is it, 10 o'clock? Why are you on social media? Can't be first break already. I did a vlog on clinicians and how hard it is to find quality clinicians, and you know, I basically said, you know, if finding clinicians has been an issue for you, like recruiting clinicians of late, heed this warning. And I can't tell you how many people has contacted me, reaching out and said, Gerda, that's really struck a chord with me. You know, I've been, and then they tell me a bit about their story, about what it is that they've gone through in terms of finding clinicians, having made the wrong decision, you know, taking somebody on board just because they've been feeling desperate, because they haven't been finding people, and then the repercussions of that when things don't work out. All right, and I really want to follow on from that conversation, because I think team and finding especially clinician team is a big challenge for us as practice owners at the moment. And if you already have an existing team, you know, it's very often important for you also to hang on to your current clinician team in terms of retaining your current team, especially if they're good. You know, I'm not sure where all those love hearts are coming from, but thank you very much. And I've been grappling probably for the last 2 months actually with Gary Vee and his perspective about the #1 skill for a business owner being empathy. Okay, so you guys would know I'm a big follower of Gary Vee. I should probably just check what time it is here on my laptop. 9:32, is that right? Okay. I've been grappling with him saying that his biggest strength as a business owner, as a CEO, is having empathy. Empathy for his team, what they are going through. And I've been so grappling with that, because if I look back at my own experiences as a practice owner, I have often felt that I have had a lot of empathy for clinicians over the years. I would often say yes to stuff. I would try and give them as much as I can, be as flexible as I possibly can if they want to change days, if they want to see different clients, if they want to do whatever, training and support them as much as I can. And you know what? There has been so many instances of me giving a heck of a lot to the team and specific people, and me getting zero in return. And of course, Gary Vee also says, expect nothing in return, because he's been through this, so bear with me. And that really feels like a kick in the guts when you give somebody a lot, and then all of a sudden they go, no, when you say no once, they want to leave, then they threaten to leave, and that's happened. It's almost like, you give them the pinky, and then they want this finger, and then they want the hand, and then they want the arm, and then they want everything. And once you say no, it's like, I'm out of here. You don't give me what I want, I'm gone. And then practice owners start to get very desperate, and then they start to say yes to things they shouldn't be saying yes to, and then they end up at my private practice success workshops and go, I can't pay the bills, I can't pay myself, because this team member, and it's very often goes down to money. They negotiated, all this money, and I felt so desperate because they've got all these clients that we need to see, and they do it because the client needs to be taken care of. Hey, Beth, thanks for joining. And it's really, really hard. And I've been thinking, how can I have even more empathy for team, and how can I, these days when I don't manage my team anymore, I have a principal, I need to still support, mentor, coach her. I mentor, support and coach, other practice owners. I almost feel like I can't tell them to have empathy because of my lessons that I've had over the years, that people will take, and then they'll leave when you stop giving. And, that's really hard. And then I really explored that a bit more. Oh, we're back. My Wi-Fi just went off. And I explored it a bit more, and I think what needs to happen, and this was actually on a recent podcast that Gary started to talk about his mistakes, Gary Vee, of course, his mistakes with having empathy, and he said it happened to him as well, which made me feel better. When he was still building the wine business for his father, as well as at VaynerMedia, his current company, where he also said that there's a very fine balance with empathy, because having too much empathy leads to the other E word. Any guesses what that is? Too much empathy leads to entitlement, a sense of entitlement, and that's what I've experienced. That's what a lot of other practice owners experience and tell me they experience, that the more they give, the more they are understanding and say yes to things, the more that person wants. And I can tell you, entitlement is probably one of the most annoying features that somebody can have. I absolutely hate it, especially, I guess, for me personally, and I'm talking to you really about personal stuff here, because gratitude is so important to me. I express gratitude to people when they do things for me, and, I will be in debt, even if it's not from their side. Personally, I would feel in debt to them, and I will do anything I can for them. And then when other... I'm back. I'm walking around here trying to get a better spot for the Wi-Fi. Yes. So the other word then, as I just was saying, is that whole sense of entitlement, when you have too much empathy. So it's really about getting that balance right. So how do you get that balance right? That's my question. Because I know having too much empathy is probably not good. So there's two things there. It's about really knowing, and I'm thinking, Gerda, you should have known this stuff. But it's so hard in the moment. Knowing the difference between empathy and sympathy. Okay, empathy means to listen and to understand, and not necessarily to say yes. Not necessarily to problem solve it for that other person. right? That's what empathy is. Just like we can have empathy with our clinical clients, we can make suggestions. They still need to go out and implement stuff for themselves. Hey, they need to go out and live their life. We will help them problem solve from a solutions-focused perspective, but they still need to go out and do the work. And it's the same with our team. So you need to be really mindful of, am I being sympathetic here and I want to go into the rescuer mode? Or am I just being in empathy? Because that's what you need to do. That's the first big message. Be in empathy and be aware of sympathy and not going into the rescuer mode. And the other thing that's really very important is what Gary Vee refers to as radical candor. Radical candor. So that means that don't wait for the performance review, the salary review, the contract renegotiations, the support space, or whatever else you call that catch-up meeting with your team. If something goes wrong, or if they're not pulling their weight, or if they're not, responding to emails when you've asked them to, or they're not getting tasks done that you've asked them to, if they're not keeping up with their letters and reports as per practice policy, if they're not doing what they're meant to do, yes, have empathy, because they're going to give you lots of excuses, okay, but don't go into sympathy. Then you need to have radical candor and give them that honest feedback, not be a bitch, not be a ruthless whatever, but just have radical candor in a calm manner and say, this is not acceptable because of A, B, and C. Okay, what are you going to do to get this done? They need to fix it. They need to take that responsibility, because we all know if they don't fix it, there's no ownership of it. So for those struggling with their team, for those that have messaged me, I hope that this has been helpful. To recap, if you find that you have a team that has gone into entitlement, it might be your complete team, it might be one person on your team, it might be a clinician, it might be an admin team member. What you need to be mindful of is those two things. Stay in empathy, listen fully, mindfully, to understand where they're coming from. Don't go into sympathy, okay? Don't problem solve it for them, and engage in radical candor, being honest, authentic about what's not being done from their end, the impact it's having on you potentially as a person, but on the practice, on the clients, and again, remind them that it is their responsibility to fix this issue. All right, and of course, you can support them in that process if there's something that you can do. So that is my message to you guys this morning. I need to go upstairs, have a shower, have some brekkie. I'm having eggs. I've already boiled 2 eggs for myself when I was making the lunches this morning for the kids. And then I'm going to be doing my 2 consults, meeting with my principal. And if you're in the Time Mastery in Private Practice course, remember I'm speaking to all of you at 8 p.m. So, what I should really say as well is I will be in Melbourne on the 5th of June. I will be in Brisbane and Sydney in August for my 1-day in-person private practice success workshops. So this is the last opportunity you will have in 2018 to get to one of my private practice success workshops. If you do not get there now, it's going to be another 6 months before you have an opportunity. Okay, now it's not me that says this, it's other people that's been there. They tell me it's the best thing they could have done. Doesn't matter what excuse is in your mind, it's normally I don't have the time. Get rid of that excuse and get your ass to the private practice success workshop, because it's literally going to change your mindset, your business, and you're going to walk away with so many practical strategies that you can implement to get your practice on the trajectory where you will have the freedom that you want to make the choices that you want in your practice. Okay, it's up to you. You've got the choice. You can either come and learn that stuff, or you can continue the way you've continued. Stay in pain, stay in uncomfortableness, stay in stress, stay in pressure. It's up to you, but I would love to see you there. I'll put a link in the comments section. I will speak to you all very soon, but as always, remember, all you need to do is say yes to your very own ultimate level 5 private practice, and I'll speak to you very soon. Bye for now.